You're listening to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. Hello, and welcome to City of Muses, a brand new podcast on the Paris Underground Radio Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jennifer Garrity, and each week I'll be sitting down with an artist or creative to talk about what inspires them, what their creative process is like, and how Paris fits into it all. Julia Palombe is a renowned singer, dancer, author, and performance artist. She began her career as a dancer, but it wasn't until she also became a singer that her message became clear. Love, desire, and sexuality are crucial forms of freedom. In our conversation, Julia shares never-before-told stories about how her own sexuality surprised her, how she's used it to liberate others, and why erotic love and self-love are so important for humanity. Then, Julia gives us a glimpse into her current one-woman show, Fantasy. Hello, Julia Palombe. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very fine.
It's so nice to actually get to meet you. I've been following your career and everything, I feel like, for so long, but I haven't actually had a chance to meet you yet. So thank you for meeting with me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And, you are a friend of Kate, my super Kate. So, of course, and I'm glad to speak with you today.
Thank you. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes, of course. I'm a professional dancer, and that's how I start my career. But quite soon I started to learn singing and acting, and I started also to write. And so, well, now actually I'm around 40. I'm living in Paris, but I'm traveling in France. And well, actually I'm going to New York in October. So I'm traveling all around the world. And I'm doing theater shows. I'm doing a lot, but for me, it's always about, art is my answer for sure. Which question is it? It's always the same question. Know where I am, who I am, and what I'm here for, And for me, it's quite obvious that I am interested in love, desire, sexuality, and the freedom, And so I'm working on this art of loving, let's say.
I love that. Yeah, I find that really interesting. I was looking at all of the different things that you do, from dancing to singing to one-woman shows to everything in between. And it seems like it all has the same core, the same base of sexuality and desire and liberation and freedom.
Yeah, because my body, for me, everything, it starts from my body, and maybe it's because I am a dancer, but from the beginning, and for me, the body never lies, and the body is really important because it tells me something. And if I listen to it, it tells me something important about my true feelings. And so my body is always in the center of my creation. I sing, I dance, I do one-woman shows. Actually, I love one-woman shows. It's my big thing, But I always take care of my body and follow my body.
How old were you when you started dancing?
Oh, wow. I was 5.
Okay.
I was very young, and I was on stage at 6,
Wow.
So it's really very quick.
You remember that? Do you remember the feeling of being on stage?
I remember because it was so strange. I was, in the coulisses, backstage, and I was waiting to go on stage with the other little dancer, But there were like always a technical problem on stage, and so the directress, she just took me like this in backstage, and she says to me, "Okay, Julia, we have a technical problem. You have to go on stage, and you have to do what you have to do." And just dance, just be polite and smile, and everything is going to be okay. And I was like, what?
At 6 years old?
Yeah. And I came on stage, and I remember these big lights on me, And I don't know what I said or what I did, but the public starts to laugh and to encourage me and to applause at the end when I did my little reverence, like a good girl. Yes, I am a good girl. And I just loved it. And I just I mean, I don't know. I felt it's the place I belong. You know, it was very easy for me. And later, when I was like 10, 12, when the people in school, you know, they asked me, what do you want to do? I mean, which job do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I'm just dancing. Let me dance, you know? And for me, it was just obvious. I couldn't do anything else. So it was not even a question. It was like, come on. Did you see me? I'm a dancer, you know?
Was there ever a moment where you realized that this was a thing that you could do for a living, or was it just something that you always sort of knew?
Well, I realized when I had to pass an important audition when I was 13, because I need to leave my family because it was so far away from the house. I needed to leave it. And I did the audition and they took me and they explained me that it was already professional. And so I realized, okay, it's a job. I'm going to be paid for it. Because at the age of 14, I was already doing little tour in the south of France during the vacations. And of course, they were paying us just a little bit, but it was, you know, it was something. And it was something serious, you know, it was something serious. And so I realized. And then I was maybe 16 or 17, and professional dancer, they came to the conservatory in Avignon and they started to explain what was about to be a dancer, you know. And okay, I was listening, but for me it was, I don't know, it was not clear. I was like, okay, they dance and they tour and they get money for it. Okay, well, let's see. But then very quick, at the age of 17, I had all the diplomas in dance, you know, and my baccalaureate too in France. So it was everything, you know, okay. And I had my first contract in Switzerland, in the Dance Theater Basel in Switzerland. And I remember how I was surprised to be paid, you know, for this. I was calling my friend, you know, and my mom, and I was like, can you believe it? They pay me to dance. For me, it was really something very, I mean, I couldn't believe it, you know, because it was my dream. So
what kind of dance was it?
It was contemporary dance. It was, I don't know if you know, it was like Pina Bausch style.
Oh, wow.
Kind of dance and theater. It's a German dance, you know. Only in Germany they do it very well. For me, the first time it was like, you know, like you speak to me in Chinese, you know. I was like, I don't know. But of course, my technique was good and I was very curious and I was I was happy to learn something. It was a big thing because it was really another vocabulary and another way to think about dancing, about coming on stage. And, you know, it was also in this kind of dance, you don't have like one solo dancer and the rest. We are all solo dancers, but just sometimes we go on stage alone. Sometimes we are 2, 3 or the all group, but we consider that we are all unique, special, and kind of, you know, solo. So it's different, you know, it's very different. Because in France, I was feeling this thing really competition, you know, there is the one and the others, and it's something they make it clear, you know, in France, but it was different. So I was loving it actually. And then also for the body, they explained me things very important to me that I use now. And it's about loving your body, you know, because in France, when I was taking classes, it was very hard. And the teachers, they told me, if it hurts, it's good. You have to work, you know, more and more. And I was like, okay. So I was, you know, I had no limits. And it's good also to, you know, to go further. And it's also about, you know, when you dance, you know, it's hard. So it's also about dancing, you know. But when I arrived in Switzerland, they explained me, no, you have to take care about your body. If it hurts, maybe something is wrong. Maybe you need to find another way to feel good, you know? And I started to think differently.
And this is where you learned how to listen to your body.
Yeah, it was really a turn.
And how did singing get involved? When did you turn into a singer as well?
Well, actually, I never told this, but it's funny. It's a funny story. When I came back in France, after a few years with Switzerland, I came in France and I thought, of course, I go to Paris because where else, you know? And so I took a little apartment in Montmartre already, and I was there, and I was, trying to choreography and doing something. And I was also giving dance masterclass, but to comedians,
Oh, to actors.
Yeah, to the actors. And I loved it. It was cool. And then once I gave a workshop, and the guy, I don't know why, at the end of a workshop, he said to me, "I cannot pay you." I was like, "What?" He said to me, "I'm sorry, I cannot pay you, but you can do a masterclass for free." I was like, "But I am a professional. I mean, I don't want to take a masterclass. I just want to get my money." And I was really nervous. And he gave me a brochure, a little brochure with all the masterclasses. And I was like, what this, I went back home. I had this brochure on on the table. And my husband, well, he became my husband. He was not a husband. He was just a friend. And he came by and he just looked at this brochure and he said to me, "What's this?" I said, "Oh, don't tell me about this, basta. I don't want to talk about it." And he took it and he said me, "Oh, but this is interesting. It's a masterclass about singing and writing your own songs." And I was like, "Yeah, but I mean, what I'm going to do?" He says me, "But you take classes." I said, "Yes, I take music classes and I take also classes for actors. But I don't know. It's just to be open, but I'm not sure." And he said to me, "It's interesting." So I thought, why not? Finally, maybe it's destiny. And I did this masterclass. It was like 2 weeks, but actually it changed my life because I realized I was very good to write songs and I didn't know it, and it was, for me, it was really something, because I was writing poem for myself since I was young, but I didn't think about make a book or write songs. It was just something I did for me. But suddenly I realized something was working. You feel it when it works. And I came on stage to sing my first songs. I just wrote, and well, it was a good feeling. And I thought maybe I should do that.
Do you find that you express yourself differently when you're singing versus when you're dancing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's different because, well, with the body, it's really something like when you can't talk anymore, you dance. So it's very profound. It's things that you cannot express by word. So you find a way with the body to express. And with the songs, it's something more about the air in the body. I need to find my colonne d'air, we say in French, but to find space, and it's already something it was very new for me because I didn't allow myself to
expand.
Yeah, to take this. And when I expand, I found new things I want to talk about, and suddenly I was like, okay, my freedom and my sexuality and my desire, everything comes out suddenly. And I didn't know I had all these things to say, I didn't even know. I was never talking about sex before.
It's the singing that changed that? The feeling in your butt?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was dancing, I was never talking about this. And even with my friends.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. When I was young, I was not talking about sex at all. It was not a subject, no? And I was a very normal girl. I mean, I was not doing special things, special sexy things. I was very normal, But then it came out with my body. When my body took, this space in the cage thoracique, in my heart, in my poumon. And then it's just, I don't know, it came out from myself, actually.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Curious about what's going on in Paris right now? My second podcast, Don't Miss This, takes you beyond the typical and the obvious with a weekly roundup of the best of what's happening in Paris each week. Never wonder what you're missing out on again. Listen now to Don't Miss This on parisundergroundradio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back with City of Muses after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. It's incredible because you would sort of imagine it would be the opposite way, that your body would be the thing that would express sex and this air, this voice would be something that would express something else.
Yeah, maybe.
I wonder if it's because you were able to give a clearer message when you're singing or speaking.
Yeah, maybe because also I love the words, I love the language. And since 10 years, I write, some books. So it means, yeah, it's something I like. But yeah, something different comes out. And also it's the public, because it's a dialogue with the audience. And the first songs I ever sing, well, you understand. When the first time I was on stage singing my songs, and it was sexy songs. It was my first try, about the desires and the things I wanted to share. And the people in the audience, they were really active, I realized the women, they came to me, "Oh, you are so special, you are something, we want to follow you." And I was like, oh, wow, what's that? I didn't realize that I was, yeah, I mean, at the same time, I realized that I was very free and I didn't know it because I never spoke about it. So I didn't know. And
Wow.
suddenly I tell the way I feel it. And suddenly I speak about my joy and the way I feel sexuality and the way it is for me. And, yeah, it brings me on the way of freedom, And so I was talking about this. And suddenly the girls also, they wanted more. They wanted to talk about it. And for them, it was something special. So I was like, okay. So it's something special for me. I mean, it came from myself. It's special. It's unique. It's, but in the same times, it meets the society. And so I thought, so it's very interesting.
And you become like a voice for all of these women who also can't express their desire.
Yeah, and it was very quick. It was very quick. It was like in 1 year, it was something, In 1 year, I was already singing in the stages, in clubs in Paris, and on the radio, they wanted me to do some sexy news. And suddenly I was writing a book, In Bed Citizens, Everything came like, like big wave, big sensual wave. And I was like, okay, let's surf.
That's so funny. That's fascinating, really. And I noticed in one of maybe your last album, that you were also singing about women with a penis and people who live in a handicapped body, for example. How did that come to be?
Wow, this is one of my favorite albums. It's La Nouvelle Eve, the new Eve. Well, I was actually, we were in a trip in Asia. We were in Vietnam, I remember. And we were in Vietnam for 2 months because it was like a, road trip. I wanted to leave Paris, far away. And I wanted to connect with something, strong. And I started to write about, one portrait. I think it was Taxi Girl. It was this woman with a penis. Because in Vietnam, I saw a lot of women with a penis, So I was inspired. I thought, we never write about this. And so I wrote down. And then I thought I work with my partner. My husband is also my work partner because he composes music. And so we were talking and I thought maybe this would be a nice idea to do like a concept album, like 10 portraits, women portraits. And like this, we can really go further in the process. And so I just did it. And yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the handicap because at least 2 times we did like a big festival in Paris with people with a handicap. And of course, they wanted me to sing about sexuality and handicap. I didn't have a special song, so I did my songs about sexuality. And then we had like a little conference, just a dialogue about how did they feel it, the songs. And well, I was curious about the questions they could ask me. And I realized that they were very excited. They wanted to talk with me about the difficulty of having sex when you have an handicap. And all these things, even in in the top of the government in France, I wanted to talk about it with the government in France, because I said, okay, how can we do it? Because we need sex accompagnateur.
Assistance.
Yeah, sex assistants. And so it's a big deal. We don't have this in France already because they are afraid it will become something like, porn. But, well, we discuss about it.
So you mean having a person who would help whose job was to help them have sex with them?
Yeah, or just maybe to have,
facilitate it.
Yeah, something, because they need help, and it's the song I write. It's about that. It's about, I mean, I can have all the people around me that help me to eat, or I don't know, or to read a book, or I can even have a family, or blah, blah, blah. But if I cannot have sexuality, I miss something very important, and I feel alone. And this song is about that. It's about, I need to be touched. So yeah, I think we have something to think about. The governments, not only in France, we have to think about it, because it's something important for them.
It's true. And you seem to look at sex as something that's a form of expression and also a form of empowerment.
Yeah, for me, it's clear. It's a form of empowerment. Sex empowerment. Yeah. Because also, when we had, in France at the club Le Bataclan, we had this big folie. And when we had the portraits of the murderers, and so we could see they had really big problem with sexuality, always. Like strange photography, photography of very young children in the computer.
Pornography.
One in Nice, he had like a strange relationship with a guy. So he was a guy like 17, and he has a very sexual and very violent relationship with a very old guy, also a man, and all this mix up with religion and Islam and blah, blah, blah. So it's a very bad mix. And so we see when people doesn't find peace with their body, with their sexuality, they cannot be free. And unfortunately, when you are not free, you become violent because you become frustrated, and the frustration, it loads to violence. So we have a problem. So I think sexuality is a key to understand yourself, to understand the others. And also it's the first step. It's the first step, because then you have all this, I call it in French, intelligence erotique. It would be like, I don't know, erotic cleverness.
Erotic intelligence. You could say that.
And this is also something very passionnant. It's, we have a lot of way to explore, and it's not about ejaculation or I don't know what, it's not about this. It's about understand your sensuality, the thing you hear, the thing you see, the thing you taste with your mouth, and sometimes just look at each other, in the eyes, with a lot of consciousness and a lot of passion and desire. It's already sexuality, and we have to understand this and to open up the way, le champ, we say in France, to open up to the way to sexuality, because it's actually, I feel it's more and more, very small, like now we have pornography everywhere. And now if you think about sex, the younger generation, you think about sex, you think about boom, boom, ejaculation, and it's over. But wow, this is not sexuality. This is not desire. This is not empowerment. Not at all. This is shit. This is like gymnastic,
Mm-hmm.
And I know better way to do gymnastics. So it's really, it's not possible. So yeah, I feel a responsibility in my art to talk about erotism, because erotism, it's beautiful. It's poetry. It's beauty. It's explore the world, And so I think we need to see this, as human being, to be more open.
Yeah, to be allowed to live in this space where you have desire and passion without it having to be directed in a certain specific way. Like, that's exactly what you're saying, is that if you have to channel it in a certain way, oftentimes that way doesn't fit with your own desires. And so then you get a violent reaction or repressed reaction or some kind of disconnect.
Yeah, and also the sexual freedom is a way also to learn how to say no. Because if you don't know anything, you cannot say no. Actually, in France and everywhere in the United States, I know in lots of countries, you have this idea of, okay, now women, we have to say no. Yeah, of course. But if you don't know anything, if you didn't took the time to explore, well, you just don't know. So you cannot say no.
It's the problem with watching pornography when you're too young as well, because if you think that this is what sex actually is, then you don't know what you're agreeing to or not agreeing to. You're just saying yes or no to the thing that you see. And sex has a wide variety of colors and flavors and textures.
Yeah, for sure. And it's an exploration all life on, because desire is not figé. It's not something like statue. Huh? It's not fixed.
Yeah.
It's moving, no? And so this is very important, because it means you have to reinvent yourself, reinvent your relationships, etc. And I always say, when you are with someone, and it's not about find mistresses to be free. No, it's not about this. It's about finding a way to reinvent the love you already get and give to your husband or your wife or your partner, you know? And this, it's exciting, because it's all about creativity and all about imagination. It's very exciting, actually. It's something, it's endless, you know, because you can find new way to look at the other, and a new way to talk about love, and new ways to everything.
I love that so much, because I feel like so many people think of marriage as the end game, and then that's it. And then that's why things fizzle and die. But you're right that things change and they transmute and they transform. And it's about a constant dialogue with yourself and with your partner.
Yeah, and with yourself, we don't have to forget this, with yourself, because first of all, you are with yourself. I mean, and at the end, anyway, you are with yourself. So it's very important to get used to it, no? And I know women, like maybe the 50 years old or 60 years old, and they don't know their body, and then they don't know themselves, you know. And sometimes when I give, like, in Paris, sometimes, I mean, once a year, I give like garters masterclass. And we learn how to put it, and how to, I had to choose the good one, and how to walk with high heels, and, this kind of things. And some women, they completely discover that, I don't know, that they have a ass, that they can move, that they can, it's crazy. I mean, for me, it's crazy. I mean, what did you do until now? I mean, come on. And it's important.
Is Paris the most romantic city in the world? Host Lily Heisey answers this very question in her podcast, Romancing in Paris, which takes you through the city, arrondissement by arrondissement, by exploring the most romantic and hidden spots Paris has to offer. Listen now to Romancing in Paris on parisundergroundradio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back with City of Muses after a word from our sponsors. And now, back to City of Muses on Paris Underground Radio. So I want to ask you about your new show, this one-woman show that you're working on now, Fantasy.
Yeah, Fantasy. Oh la la, I love it.
Can you tell me about that?
Alors, it's a lot of improvisation for me. Well, also for you, for the concept is very interesting. I think it's the audience, when they came to the theater, they write down their fantasy, a secret fantasy, a sexual fantasy, of course, and it's completely anonymous. So it's okay. You can you can give it to me. And so they write down, and they put it in a big glass of champagne. I mean, not glass, but a seau of champagne. And then I come on stage. I mean, I come on stage, I do like a big entrance, like I do it.
Of course.
It's not about just coming on stage. It's about woo. It's a feu d'artifice. It's on fire. I come on stage and then I take the little papers and I start to improvise and I start to speak about it and I share with the audience. And it is so funny. Because the way they say it, the way they write down the fantasy, even if it's a classic fantasy, but it's never classic because the people they write down with their words and with their own mind, and so it becomes something special and something unique. And I have a lot of fun because because I confront everything with all this, I confront everyone, with all these fantasies, and we have like S&M fantasies. And we have like very cute and romantic things, and we have new worlds that we don't even know about, some sometimes even me, I learn new things, because I'm like, well, I don't know everything. Tell me, what does it mean? Someone knows. So it's very funny. And the people, they came on stage and I go with them. Of course, I do a lot of plays, and at the beginning I was a little bit nervous because I thought, my God, if they are too afraid. But I think I have something special. I have like, I don't know, the way I speak with the people and the way I come on stage with my freedom, they are very free. It's like, it's like a mirror. I am free, they are free, and everybody is playing because, first of all, sexuality is a play. It's a play. Like when we were kids, no? It's a play. And this idea is very evident since the first minute of the show. We are going to play. And I will not push you to do something you don't want to do. And of course, it's not about doing sexual things on stage because we are in a theater. So it's all about, a mise en scène of the desire, but it's not something, creepy or strange.
So you're acting things out and storytelling?
Yeah. For example, I'm going to give you one thing. For example, when I come on stage, after a few minutes, I need a groom. I need a groom because I have a big bottle of champagne. And, I'm feminist, but until the bottle of champagne. I think we need to open it. So I look for someone, I go down, and I look for someone and I pick someone. And once he's on stage, I say, oh, but now you're on stage. I have a special costume for you. Oh, okay. So I have a groom costume. And then I have a sonnet, ring. And so he opens up the bottle and then I say, okay, now when I need you, I will ring you. Is it okay? Yeah. And so
a little bell.
So during the show, he's always coming on stage to put some champagne in my glass or to do something, And it always, it's little things like this. And sometimes we go further if it's possible, if it's funny. I don't know. But it's all about fun. And, the telephones, they are not allowed. And this also makes a difference because we are just, us. And we don't take pictures or we don't do, I don't know, it's just us and our fantasies.
Amazing. That's it's a little private experience.
Yeah, and also, fantasies, it's very exciting because it's completely free. You don't have a morale of fantasies. You don't have a police of fantasies, It's free and you can think about whatever you want. It doesn't mean you're going to do it, no? So it's just, we can speak about it and we can make the fantasies free.
Yeah. So there's no judgments then even.
No judgments. And I have men and women. I have, it's a lot of people from all ages. It's very cool, actually.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an experience that made you uncomfortable in any way?
Well, once it was very strange because actually it was my birthday. It was the 12th of February, last one. So I had a lot of friends, of course, in the audience and a lot of people I didn't know too. And it was the beginning. And, you know, in the public, there is one way I can pass, you know. And so I was caressing how do you say this?
Shoulder.
The shoulder. I was caressing the shoulders, you know, like this. 1, 2, maybe 3 times. And then a man say to me with aggressivity, you know, he says to me, "Oh, come on, you're going to stop to caress me." And I was like, you know, I was surprised. In my head, I was like, but why is here? Why he put himself in front, you know, and to the way.
To the aisle.
So, of course, I'm going to pass and caress him, you know. I mean, it's the way we do it. So, but then I didn't say anything. All the people, they were, you know, like no breathing, you know, like, oh my God. And so then I say, oh, I thought he will ask me to caress him more and more. And so everybody was, you know, when in France, it's a word joke. But anyway, everybody was laughing and blah, blah, blah. And after 10 minutes, I was on his knees and he was praying me, you know, to kiss him. I was like, so, little boy, you know what you want or you don't want? You know, men, they are little boys. So, you know, playing with him. And at the end, he came to me and he says to me, "I'm very sorry for what I've done." And I said to him, "No, you don't need to be sorry. In love, we don't need to be sorry. It's okay, you know." And for me, everything is okay as long as we can speak about it, as long as we can change our minds. That's the story, you know. That's the story of love. And he says to me, "Oh, you are a lovely person, but you know, I just lose my wife a few days ago." And I was like,
oh no.
Oh, okay, take care of yourself. In my head, I was thinking, wow, it's strange. Okay, you lose your wife and then you come. Okay, why not? But, you know, and I think it's interesting also that, yeah, it's part of the game. We are all from different worlds, you know, and also we pass by different energies and we all have a different story and blah, blah, blah. And I think this is interesting to accept this, you know. And it doesn't mean we cannot play together, and it doesn't mean we cannot learn things from each other, you know. And yeah, that's the way I like it.
That's beautiful. So where can people find you if they want to keep up to date with what is going on in your world?
Yeah, I have, of course, a site, www.juliapalombe.com. So this is very simple. I have also a link tree like Julia Palombe if you want to have everything. In Paris, fantasy is at Théâtre Montmartre Galabru. It's like a point de rendezvous. It's a rendezvous every Saturdays. I come here when I'm not in tour. And actually, I start to have, you know, shows in Lyon, in south of France, in Toulouse, in Castres. So I start to move. And actually, big news. I just 2 days ago, I learned that I can go to New York in October 25. I would do a little, you know, extrait of fantasy at the Sleeper Room, baby. Ooh, I'm so excited.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I need to practice my English, you know.
Your English is wonderful and your accent is so charming. They'll love you no matter what you say.
I hope so. So I'm very, very glad, very exciting for me. It's a big thing.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. It's so wonderful talking to you. I feel like I could just keep talking to you forever. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. See you. Ciao.
Thank you for listening to City of Muses. If you like what you've heard, please take a moment to rate and review it. This is the fastest and easiest way to help support the podcast. Tell a friend who could use a little inspiration. You can also subscribe to the Paris Underground Radio newsletter over on our website, which comes out every Sunday and gives a little peek into what's on the network for the week ahead. I'm your host, Jennifer Garrity, and you can find me on all socials at Jennyphoria. That's JennyPhoria. Thank you for listening, and may you find inspiration wherever you go. City of Muses was produced by Jennifer Garrity for Paris Underground Radio.